So we're looking here at mainly using the web, but then using whatever you have on the web to complement your efforts whenever you have to go offline or do anything offline with anybody, right? So, but how do you decide what kind of marketing content to put out there, whether offline or online? How do you decide what kind of things to say and how to say it and blah blah blah, things like that? Like I tell all my clients when I have these discussions all the time, your best bet is to let the market tell you what it wants. So it means that you will start with what you have assessed that the market needs. So you would have actually looked at, as we said before, your target audience profile. Who are the kind of people that you want to sell to? Who are the people that need what it is you want to sell? All right. Then based on that, you look at, okay, these are the kind of people I want to sell to. Okay, so this is the kind of thing I need to be telling them to make them believe that I can help them. However, when you begin to put out the stuff, what you find out that, and I learned this lesson, I mean, it wasn't like I learned it the hard way, but I learned it as I moved along in my marketing, and I took guidance from that lesson to create new content, and I've used that till today to guide whatever I do with regard to my marketing. I always let the market tell me what kind of content to create. So I keep assessing, analyzing the results I'm getting with the initial efforts I put in, and then I modify my efforts over time based on the results I see that I'm getting. No matter how tiny the results might be, I try to take feedback from the market and use that to decide what to do next in the next batch of content I create. So let's take an example. Let me share a true story. That's the best way to really explain this to you. About a decade ago, at that time, I was still doing a lot of pavement pounding. I would drive around, park my car, and then move around. The major areas where I did a lot of my pavement pounding were Akoka. These are areas in Lagos now. Akoka, Ikeja, Ogba, Ojodubega, places like Allen Avenue. So all those are still in Ikeja as well. I'm just trying to give more like suburbs that I went to. Of course, I went a lot to Victoria Island in the early years, and later I just realized that I wasn't getting the results I needed. So I returned to the mainland and I focused mainly on the mainland. I used to go to places like Yaba, and there's some other areas like that. But the reason why I mentioned the different areas I used to go was I wanted to let you understand that I didn't start out with an understanding of where I would find my ideal buyers. One day, I came across this company. They're into real estate, and I would assess them to be between medium to large in terms of their operations. So they weren't a small company at all. They had company cars, branded. They had employees. At least the Lagos office I went to, I counted not less than, I would say, about 20 employees. I'm talking of management level employees, not just foot soldiers, And they had offices on Lagos, on the mainland. They had offices on the island. They had in Port Harcourt. They had in Abuja. It was interesting. Now, this company, I just noticed that they had a URL, but the URL led nowhere. So, one of the things you want to do, I keep telling you, is you've got to profile your target audience. You do your background research. I said that in the previous recording. You do your background research. You do extensive background research, online, offline. Try and go around, don't let them know your intention. Just talk to some of the guys who are like the foot soldiers, the shop floor operatives, or the low-level employees. Casual conversation. You get a lot of details from those guys, and then you use that as a basis to take one step at a time to get up to the higher level people. All the time, your goal will be to meet the top man, top woman, the decision maker, the person who can sign a check. So that's what I did. And I saw that, wow, these guys fit my target audience profile perfectly, especially by virtue of the fact that, given the size of their operation, the quality of what I saw that they did, the kind of field they were into, the fact that they could really be assessed to be like a leader in that industry. And they've been around for several. In fact, they have been around for about the top people in the company who started the company. My research indicated that they've been in business for about 20 years. The two of them, they were two guys. So I said, okay, now I'm sure it's not by choice that their URL, their website is non-functional. They have a URL, but it leads nowhere. The URL is no longer registered. And I said, these people must have a reason why this is so. And who knows, if I make them an offer, they might just allow me to help them get it back online and put their stuff out there, because they do need it. So based on that conviction, I went in and then I had that conversation with them. But you see, I've told this story actually in a different video, right? So I don't want to talk about the story of how they hired me, blah blah blah. That's not it. I started a relationship with them. They hired me already. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description for the video in which I talked about how they got. It's the same company how they hired me. What I want to talk about is how they called me back for more work. That's what I want to talk about. So you see how your efforts can pay off. They hired me. I got them back online. Did everything. They were happy. Then I walked away. I mean, basically at that time I wasn't even offering all these opportunities for me to have this long-term relationship with people. I will finish my job, they will sign up, they will give me whatever balance I had, and then we'll be done. I said they would need any extra help. So I would say about 2 weeks later, the CEO calls me, right? He's like, well, that's a partnership. He's not the CEO. He's just like a kind of partner, and he was running one office, and the other guy was running another office on the island. He called me and said asked me if I was around in the Ikeja area. I told him I was, and he said, "Okay, can you just drop into the office before we close? I need to discuss with you." I was saying, "What this about?" And he said, "Okay, when you come, blah blah blah." He wasn't really keen to say much. He was a bit busy. He just wanted to get me to agree to come in. So on my way, I mean, from Allen Avenue, I just moved around and went down to their own end of the Ikeja area. And by the time I sat with him in his office, he told me he had gotten a call, interesting, from South Africa. You see, they are into real estate, like I told you. And this gentleman, for instance, had been in business as of that time for over 2 decades. So he was telling me how he was knowledgeable about so many things. So when we were building, or was basically I was building the website back up again. I had to register their domain name and all of that. I remember I was discussing with him and telling him why. Remember, this is in 2010 now, around about that time. So at that time, we weren't so big on Facebook and social media marketing for most part. Most companies were not really there yet. They were still looking at those platforms with a lot of skepticism ahead. So they are just choosing on it. The thing is, I saw the need for it. Again, so that I saw the need for use of social media marketing. I saw the potential in Facebook, in particular Facebook. I was very clear about it. As soon as I was convinced to use the platform, I began to use it. And I told this client, I said, you will need to have a Facebook account. We will need to do Facebook marketing for you, and we will need to integrate your blog, all right, publications, or your publishing process. We need to synchronize it, okay, using RSS feed to supply or to publish directly to your Facebook page, that it will help his brand. When I said it, I remember, I will never forget that conversation. He told me, look, Tayo, we don't know all these things you are doing. This is for Yahoo boys. All these Facebook thing, all these things. We don't have time for that. Do you know how many industry years I've been in? I'm quoting him, but not literally. I'm kind of paraphrasing. Do you know how many years I've been in this industry? I've been in this industry over 20 years. Look, people that buy property don't stay on all these funny platforms. These are all these children, these Yahoo boys. And I told him, I said, at that time, I told him, I said, sir, there are many young entertainers that are heavily into money that are in real estate today, sir. And most of them are promoting their properties, business interests on Facebook, sir. He said, no, look, let's finish this website. Look, I place my articles in Punch, Guardian, I publish, I have over so and so I said, okay, no problem, sir. Let me have all the copies of the editions of the newspapers in which they publish your write-ups. We are going to take those write-ups, we're going to republish them on your blog, and then we're going to automatically have them appear on. Sorry, we're going to set them up also for article marketing, blah 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 blah. I told him, I said, since you don't want Facebook, let's remove that. So I didn't bother to put that in for him. Now, right, he said he called me to his office, and then he was telling me this South African company had reached out to him, and they had said they found him through the articles marketing that I set up. All right, an article marketing account that I set up, where his content had been published and then linked to his website. So they followed the link to his website and read more, saw the profile of the company, saw his own profile, and they were impressed. So they reached out and said they had always been looking at the Nigerian market as a market that had a lot of potential, but they had no means, they had no idea of how they would get to an influencer in industry, somebody that was knowledgeable and competent to guide them about how to make entry. They were looking to invest in the real estate market in Nigeria. This is a South African company. So he said he had a conversation that lasted some, I don't know, less than an hour, but about more than 30 minutes. And he said when they finished with him, what they did was to send him an Amazon gift, I think coupon or something like that, of $100 value to purchase whatever he wanted from the Amazon.com website. That was their way of thanking him for literally what he did was to give a consultation session. And he said they had interest in working with him further to facilitate their entry into the market. Now, you can imagine the number of hurdles this man knew he had. He knew that he had crossed several hurdles. First of all, he didn't place an ad in South Africa or anywhere else. He simply put his content on his own web marketing system, and some people were convinced enough, based on what they saw, to discuss with him so seriously and to be willing to give him that kind of reward. It cost him literally nothing because he had already set up his website. He already paid for that. This was like just icing on the cake. So he immediately saw the value in having his presence even propagated onto other platforms. That was why he called me, and then he said, come, this Facebook you are telling me, what will it take to even have it? And I said, but okay, you told me it's only Yahoo boys and this. I said, come, forget about that. Tell me what. So it was an interesting experience. Now, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that this story is an example of how the market tells you what is important. You see, you can be an expert in your business. It doesn't mean that you will know how business will come to you. It's two different things. You can be an expert at doing what you do. It does not mean you will be able to know all the possible channels through which people might want to come to you and pay you money to get something from you. You see, you will be used to how you do business already, how you've gotten paid. But there may be somebody else that's looking for something different that you have not thought of, but which you have the competence to do for the person and get paid for. Therefore, don't block your opportunities. Don't be narrow-minded or rigid in your thinking, all right, about how business can come to you. You know, it's the same theme about keeping an open mind. In web marketing, you've got to, if I just say marketing, you've got to be open-minded. You've got to be willing to be flexible in your thinking. If not, you're going to lose opportunities. So in this case now, you see, you've got to understand that the market is where you should look to get the best insights about how you should be doing your marketing. So the market you want to sell to, and even related markets, you will look at what kind of information is coming from there and analyze it. Try to establish if there's a pattern or some kind of indication that you can take and use to guide your content creation process. So don't just go creating random content, blind content. You've got to let the market educate and inform you about what is important to it. It is when the market is telling you this is what I want, then you can now create content to meet that need that the market has told you. All right. So in the case of this man now, he created content that struck a chord with the people in South Africa. They contacted him. So he knew immediately, okay, this is the kind of thing these people want, and this is how they came to me. Therefore, he wanted to propagate his presence more. Then, of course, based on what he told me, we were able to create more content and then use that to feed his web marketing system. I'll tell you another example. There was a time I did a job that was in 2008. These were the early years. You know, this is where I learned a lot of hard lessons that guided me to create what I call the web marketing system today. The company is into hearing and speech improvement. One of my oldest clients, he's an audiologist and a representative of one of the biggest manufacturers in the world of hearing aids. You know, so he hired me at that time to build him a website. It was actually a cold call I placed on him in his office, and then I convinced him, and he hired me. After I finished building the website, I think I wrote about maybe about 5 articles or something. I researched the subjects, different topics, and I just wrote several articles based on audiology, hearing and speech improvement for his marketing. Then he traveled to the USA, where the manufacturer he represents were based, and he was there for several weeks. And when he returned, he said they asked him pointedly that who had built that website for him. He said he told them about me. And he said they told him that the guy that built those websites, and they asked who wrote the articles, and he said I was the one too. Even though I was not an audiologist, they said they were impressed, and they asked him to go back and ask me to write more articles of that nature. You see, like I keep saying, you've got to take feedback from your environment. Now, remember, he is representing them to sell. So they know the kinds of content that have gotten results for them. So they saw the content that I put up for him, which is content I created by researching the market, looking at what he told me based on his responses on my web marketing questionnaire, and then I created content along those lines. Now, the American partners he had were the ones that then told him, bro, go back and tell that guy to write more for you. So he came back and called me to him. He actually called me on the weekend and said, could I see him in his office? I said, why not? So I went over and I sat down. He explained the situation to me and he said he needed it as early as possible. He paid me that weekend to write, I think it was about 14 extra writes up. And if I recall correctly, back then in 2008, he paid me about, each one was about 2,500. So you do the math, 2,500 times multiplied by 14 write-ups. I don't know how much that comes to today. So that was what he paid me. And I wrote those articles. I think I did it in about 7 working days or something like that. And the point I'm making is his conviction came from the fact that the people he was selling for, the people he was representing, look, one hearing aid at that time, if I recall correctly, was 250,000 naira. So these guys were the ones that were supplying him all those things, and he was then administering to patients in Nigeria. And he knew if they were telling him do this, he knew that they knew what they were saying because they had looked at what I created. So you can see that way back in 2008, there was a focus on what the market needed, and the people that were running the markets knew that the market was more important. That's why they said do more write-ups. They didn't just say put more adverts in papers because he does that, but they said do more of this kind of thing. And they're in America and they're telling Nigerian clients to do that. So it goes to show that this is a concept that's recognized universally. You must let the market guide you, and you must focus your energies on creating content that the market wants. All right, and most importantly, just keep an open mind, be flexible in your thinking, and the opportunities will come and you will be able to identify them and seize them.